welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And, of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know you love here in Canada, but we also love the Big C tribe in Africa. The Big C. There's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, just another beautiful southern day down here. You know, what more can you ask for? You know, you got the sunshine, you got the clear skies, got a little booze in the air, you know, from the distilleries and everything.
Yeah.
You know, people got a while to brew up a couple of batches before the big game. He got me stammering already.
Yeah. What is Scarface telling us? He said, don't use your own supply. Big C, don't use your own supply. But it's all good. You know, sometimes there's a cultural thing. I had some friends from down south, and one time I went by for some dinner, and they made a big bowl of soup for everybody, Big C. Would you believe that good old girl was sipping out of the same bowl that we all were going to drink from and eat from, Big C? That make any sense to you good old boys down south?
That's known as community property, you know. All with the family. I think there was a show on TV one time called that.
Yeah.
Share like, you know. I mean, you know, what is that a fear from sipping from somebody else's mouth?
Yeah, well, that's something we can talk about later today. I do want to say today is a beautiful January, the 23rd, 2018, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and so many things to talk about in the world of sports. You know, we have the Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks. In the meantime, we have a lot of things going on in the NBA with who's going to go into this draft pick that they're putting up for the All-Star game. And, you know, how do some of the best football players in the history of the professional sports rank with some of the best players in the history of the NBA and NFL, and then you have Major League Baseball. So a lot of people are trying to say who's the greatest ever to play whatever game. And then also, Big C, one of the things I want to touch on too is I hear that because of everything going on in Washington, that they're trying to make it where that now they don't want to fund the wall, Big C, but they want to give. What's going on with the Washington, D.C. and the policy? Are they going to fund the wall, or are they not going to fund the wall, Big C? Your thoughts?
You know, what's amazing to me, Charlton, and not to make light of the wall or any other tragedy that goes on in America, but, you know, how can you protect America from America?
Yeah.
You know, we had a shooting today in another high school.
Oh, really?
And they could not label that on being some Mexican immigrant, Charlton, that crossed the border illegally.
Yeah.
This was a 15-year-old that walks into a high school, I believe it was in Kansas, Charlton, and started firing on schoolmates. You know, they have an atrium there in the school, and, you know, he fires off a full clip from this semi-automatic pistol that he has, Charlton.
That's crazy.
But, you know, these are the things that we never hear the president expound upon, Charlton, whether it's Las Vegas, whether you know, it's any other place in America where we have these mass shootings.
Yeah.
And to say, you know, these are terrorists, these are people who came into the country illegally. We have Americans that create more travesty in this country, Charlton, than anyone else.
Yeah.
You can always point a finger at a foreigner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like saying that, you know, a foreign baseball player is a dirty individual.
Right.
That he's here illegally, you know, but they come from Latin American countries, Charlton.
Yeah.
We look at the Eastern European bloc basketball players that are here in America. He never expounds on these people are here illegally and taking American jobs.
Yeah.
So you look at all the European hockey players, Charlton, that are in America, taking American jobs, so-called. So, you know, these things are never discussed about. And so when you want to sit here and talk about true tragedies in America, and you got to realize in these high schools are young athletes that are part of the general population.
Yeah.
The president doesn't know how to address these things because they don't deal with his agenda. But his base is where the shooting took place today, unfortunately, Charlton.
Yeah, and
so these are situations where the president needs to address the country on these needless acts of violence by someone having access to a gun, okay?
Yeah.
Someone having access to a gun that the NRA is backing, talking about the right to protect yourself and bear arms.
Yeah.
If anyone ever looked at the Constitution, Charlton, and look at the opening page of the Constitution, we the people, of the people, for the people, and understand who the people of America was at the time when this piece of paper was written, we'll understand that this paper has as much valor as it has stuff that doesn't mean anything to the rest of society, Charlton.
Well, I hope that we can,
these are the things that need to be addressed.
And I hope that we can all address those matters because it takes a sports forum to do it. A lot of people will pay attention to a sports figure more than a political figure. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to all of the victims of that tragedy. I just hate hearing that when that happens. But hopefully we'll find a way to resolve it eventually, Big C. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You know, when I think about everything that's going on in life, and I think about the time it was Tommy Smith at the Olympics, and I believe it was Berlin, and he held up was it Mexico City? I believe Mexico City.
Yeah, Tommy Smith and Lee Evans.
Lee Evans, and he held up his hand, that sign of unity. And I know how they were ostracized just by asking for unity for people in the United States, not just athletes. But I want to bring up a thought that just happened. It was just some news today about how the NFL is going to finally do something to address unity and togetherness. And our country could really use that, Big C. But the unity and togetherness, just like Tommy Smith, and when he held up his hand, he was ostracized. Colin Kaepernick, when he took a knee, he was ostracized. But now I think the NFL, I do want to give them applause for finally trying to put together a way to bring about dialogue about what's going on in different societies, black and white, not just what's happening on the field. It was never about disrespecting the troops. It was never about disrespecting the flag. It took the NFL a year and a half to do it, Big C, but I'm glad they're starting to do something to address the issue what's going on in social justice, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, any time that an African-American man has taken a stance for social injustice in America, it has caused uneasiness in society.
Yeah.
We go back to the civil rights movement, and all of these people were alleged anti-American. All they wanted was a part of the American dream, Charlton.
Yeah.
So many black civil rights leaders were killed in the 60s, Charlton.
Yeah.
For standing up for their rights. People were beaten down for saying, we just want equality.
Yeah, equality.
We want to be able to shop in the same store that you.
Yeah.
We want to be able to eat in the same restaurant as you. We want to be able to go to the same movie theater and not sit up in the balcony like you, Charlton.
Yeah.
And even into the modern time U.S., where athletes have become more activists than we've had socially, in mainstream society, because they've had a larger platform, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you talked about the 68 Olympics with Tommy Smith and Lee Evans.
Yeah.
Where they took the stand and they held up their fist in solidarity.
Yeah.
They were banned from amateur athletics for life, Charlton.
Isn't that crazy?
Now, we have drug users that are allowed to stay in amateur athletics. They get a fine, a suspension, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were never banned for life. When you think about some of the atrocities that have been committed, we look at Larry Nassar.
Yeah.
Who was allowed to prey on these young girls for over a decade.
Yeah.
And everybody now in the Olympic Committee, gymnastics is starting to resign and retire.
And people knew about his behavior. They knew about it. Yeah, they knew about
his behavior, but it was acceptable because these were white males creating these crimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But, when an African-American speaks up against equality, that's not what's want to be heard by mainstream society. They say, things are fine in my neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I live, I don't get pulled over by the police. I don't have to worry about somebody chasing me down. I don't worry about neighborhood crime and things like that. I don't worry about social injustice because I am the social part of society.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't worry about what you people worry about. So I can't identify with it. That's the main problem. I heard an athlete, a white quarterback today, Josh McCown from the New York Jets, saying, for society to recognize its woes is that you have to put yourself in other man's shoes.
Yeah.
You have to recognize his life. You just can't sit from a distance and say, well, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go into his dialogue, into his neighborhood, into his lifestyle, and see where the problem is.
Yeah.
That's what we're not getting. It's fine in a locker room. You always have unity in team sports, Charlton. You think about in football, and we got the Super Bowl coming up in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When you go into the huddle and you grab hands, you put your hands in, whether it's in basketball, baseball, whatever, and when you do your little rah-rah, all those hands go together in unity.
Yeah.
Regardless of the cultural differences, the cultural background, the ethnicity, you become one unifying force.
Yeah.
And that's all that African Americans has ever sought in society.
Yeah.
Whether it be in sports, the fight it took them to get into professional sports, even collegiate athletics.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be accepted onto the main stage, to be allowed. You think about even in boxing, African Americans who held world heavyweight titles, Charlton, and middleweight titles, still were not accepted in society. They could not go everywhere. that every white champion could go, Charlton.
Well, I think
They were still
yeah.
limited by their culture.
That's a good point you bring up, Big C. And even I look at the late, great Muhammad Ali and how he was such a statuesque of a person. He was about a 6'3" guy and just chiseled and young and a good-looking guy, well-spoken. And what I really appreciate about this relationship he had with Howard Cosell is, and people can have their beliefs about what I'm going to say, but Howard Cosell never tried to make Ali look like he was doing something against America. He was someone who wanted the interview with Ali, and they would have this back and forth, and it was never this thing where let's have people protest boxing, because here's a guy saying that we want equality in the United States of America. And even though Muhammad Ali went to jail for not going off to war, he protested the Vietnam War, and a lot of other people got furloughed. They didn't ever have to go. But I look at how Ali went to jail because he stood up for what he believed in. But he was maybe even more so respected after he passed away, Big C, than he was when he was standing up and asking for equality in this country, and even changed his name to a Muslim name. There were some elements of media that made it seem like this guy's anti-American now, but Cosell was right there by his side through a lot of what he went through, and still made him seem like a human, unlike today, Big C, where people want to say, well, this guy's against America. Do you see the contrast in that behavior, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I question that, Charlton, with our current president,
Yeah.
who refused to go to battle during Vietnam, had
Yeah.
5 deferments from Vietnam War,
Yeah.
saying that he had a physical problem.
Yeah.
Okay? He was never an athlete, so how could he have a physical problem that he had shin splints?
Yeah.
From walking around too
Yeah,
much.
walking around too much, you can cause shin splints, Big C.
That Jen was working on him too hard at that time.
Yeah.
But, that's anti-American.
Yeah.
It's lying. I mean, he started lying at an early age. He
Yeah.
didn't wait to become president to start lying.
Yeah.
He started lying at an early age, so he wants to sit there and say anti-American. He was anti-American all during the 60s, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was total anti-American. He said, hey, that's for other people, not for me. You go defend my rights. I'm not going to defend America's rights.
Yeah.
And now he wants to be all in for America.
Yeah.
And people want to believe what he says.
Yeah.
So when you speak about Ali, who failed the draft entrance exam 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times he failed it. And the 4th time they said, we don't even want to take the test. We're just going to draft him.
Yeah.
Because he can't pass the test.
Yeah.
He can't pass the written exam.
Yeah.
And so that's how biased the draft was. If you were a minority, and this was an easy way to try to silence Ali, is to send him off to war.
Yep.
And hopefully that something would happen to him in the battle zone, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you would have him out of sight and out of mind in America, because African Americans and minorities gravitated to Ali. He was their ray and beacon of hope.
Yep.
Because he was that unsilenced voice that, regardless against all odds and threats against his life, he still spoke.
Yeah.
He walked with Dr. King.
Yeah.
He walked with Medgar Evers, Charlton.
Yeah.
He walked with all the civil rights activists of the 60s.
Yeah.
He was them. He was not a shy person. He took what he had on the world stage and brought it to America. And that's the reason why America wanted to silence Ali so much, is because he brought world attention to the atrocities that were going on in America, because he was the world champion. Everybody in the world knew who he was. At one point, Charlton, he was the most recognizable figure in the world.
Yeah.
Not America, but in the world.
Yeah.
And so when you bring that type of recognition to a country that lacks equality and social equity,
Yeah.
that's what sports brought to America.
Well,
It brought that black eye to America, Charlton.
let me ask you this question, because in hindsight, everybody always, I remember when they had the service for Ali, it was almost like a day where the sports world paused. And that same sports world that paused, obviously, we didn't have some of the major networks that cover sports 24 hours a day when Ali was doing his protesting and of the Vietnam War, the same way we have now. But there are so many people at that time, Big C, even though we did have a few networks, they were part of that same collusion that teamed up against Colin Kaepernick and tried to make him look like the enemy, okay? All he was asking for was equality for everybody. I want to contrast that thought about Ali. What does it mean to have an Ali presence? I really do respect the Long brothers, because as a Caucasian man, a lot of Caucasian guys, we've been athletes and teammates and friends and roommates forever. But when it comes to standing up for opportunity for social justice reform and the criminal justice, prison industrial complex that affects so many African American men, a lot of people won't do it. But I want to ask you this thought. at a time like we live in today, where the country seems to be so divided, I look at well, you could say the president, but I look at Tom Brady, and I know he's canonized as America's prodigal quarterback, where everyone wants to love Tom because he can get Super Bowl number 6 under his tutelage, okay? What would it take? What could he say to white America? Because I think the Long brothers, if they were in his position where they were more popular, they would ask for more equality and more opportunity in jobs and also in criminal justice reform, the same way the Long brothers do. Not that they're as vocal as Kaepernick, but at least they're not silent like Tom Brady is, Big C. Why is his image more important than speaking out for his black brothers that are part of his team, as many of them come and praise him, Big C? Just that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's no different than any other white superstar quarterback. And there's a fluff of him in the NFL. I mean, in Major League Baseball, in hockey, in track and field, in every major sport in America. There are white voices that can speak.
Yeah.
But it's not their neighborhood, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's not their social structures. Yes, they have minority teammates.
Yeah.
And everything is fine when you're in the locker room because you're in a business environment, just like in any other job in America.
Yeah.
Your workplace is your workplace.
Yeah.
But you don't go home with each other.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You may drive the same type of car, but the street that you drive through, the guy that sees you that's sitting in that black and white cruiser doesn't see the other guy, Charlton. He sees you.
Yeah.
And so if you've never had that problem, and even if you had been pulled over and they recognize who you are in the car, you're Tom Brady and you were doing 95 on a 55 street.
Yep.
Oh, Tom, hey, can I get an autograph for the kid?
that may have happened,
It's going to be slowing down, be safe.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
say you're that African-American teammate of Tom.
Yeah.
And you get pulled over, and you're not highly known. You're not a starter. You're a backup.
Yeah.
I don't care about you playing for the Patriots. You're going to sign this paper here to say you're going to appear in court. Not the autograph. You're going to sign the paper to say you're going to appear in court.
and no autograph. And I bring it up because he does have African Americans in his family. But I look at Roger Goodell, and people love and hate Roger Goodell. I think he's done as well as he can do. But I think that the NFL, they actively are making it known that the same way they had this stance against no hitting women, and they had guys wearing pink shoes, and they had guys wearing a pink scarf around the waist or whatever they were wearing, peak wrap, tape around their ankles and arms, etc. And they made it a big point. Let's say anti-violence against women, and we know that oftentimes the NFL is blamed as the poster child for that, when really it's a mainstream issue, Big C. But I want to just bring this point up again, because the same thing that Colin Kaepernick lost a job for and couldn't get a job for by the 32 owners in the league, now that same league is saying let's honor what Colin Kaepernick took a stand for. That's almost a hypocritical stance. We won't hire the guy, but now, you know what? After a while, we're starting to understand what he meant, and now they're actively trying to get players to become more socially conscious, like the late Muhammad Ali. I just think it's a bit disingenuous that the league, I can't say the league like they're all one group, but many of the owners who want their players to go out and become more active in the community, and they want to do it with their own dollar, but they wouldn't give a man a job who made that situation known in the first place. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at professional sports, it's like looking at a train with a lot of cars behind it, okay?
Yeah.
It takes a while to get up to speed. It is a very slow attrition to get up to momentum.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking at with a situation with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
And I do praise the NFL for things that it has allowed, that it has encouraged this past season, Charlton, when you look at the players taking a stance with each other because of the social injustice that was there. And the league did not balk at that.
No.
And that's the thing you have to understand. Even from outside injection, where they were saying, fire the SOBs and
that was Trump.
They should be cut and all of that.
Yeah.
But the league said no. These players have the right as grown men to peacefully protest or even make stances if they want. They weren't protesting. They were peacefully making a stance.
Yeah.
And I even applaud the league even more today, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because the league rejected an ad for the Super Bowl to suggest that Americans and ball players should all stand for the national anthem. I respect the league, Charlton, for taking that stance.
Yeah.
To say that it is not our duty to tell our players what they can do in a peaceful setting.
Yeah.
Because the league only had players come out for the national anthem, Charlton, a little over a decade ago, because money was involved.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It was a financial endeavor.
Yeah.
That it wasn't that the league always stood for the national anthem. And that's what people don't understand, all these novices out there saying that Colin Kaepernick was against the flag in the military.
Right.
You need to go back and look 15 years ago when all players in the league, Charlton, were in the locker room.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They're playing in the national anthem. And think about college football. They're in the locker room during college football, Charlton. They don't come out.
Yeah.
They do not. You know, the NFL was the only league, and that was a financial league. It wasn't because of the flag. It was because of some things called greenbacks. Okay?
Yeah.
That's all it was. If the money wasn't involved,
The money.
the players would not have been on the field. So that position would have never taken place 15 years ago.
Yes,
So all these people that will sit around and walk and talk about, you know, this is anti-American, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Think about the players that were standing at the urinal,
Yeah.
sitting on the can, all these things 20 years ago, having a cigarette,
Yeah.
you know, in the locker room when the national anthem was playing, and nobody said anything.
No.
Now all of a sudden, because a minority player takes a stance and tells you
Yeah.
that you're wrong as a society, you want to make it anti-American because you think that you have all the right to be against any minority.
You know, I got to bring up a story. It's just a footnote, but it just happened today in California, the land of the free, the home of the brave, where everybody's free and equality exists everywhere and everyone's treated the same. I was at a grocery store earlier today, and maybe it's just this one incident that I've seen, but I've seen very, very many times where some of my Caucasian friends, we go out and someone pull out $100 bill and the register will just take it. They're buying drinks or whatever, as you call them, libations. Big C, you do libations down south, and pull out $100 bill and no one checked it. They didn't run a scanner on it. They just took it and gave the guy the change back. And I didn't really think much about it, but today I'm in a store and there was I'm just going to say Hispanic lady. We know all this DACA garbage that's going on and Trump and building the wall and all that garbage. Would you believe in a line full of people, Hispanic lady pulls out $100 bill to buy some groceries, and the clerk just happened to be Caucasian, just a social experiment. I'm sure it's happened to everybody. But not only did she take the $100 bill, she put some type of clear gel on it, and then she held it under the scanner, and then she held it up in the air to see if it was real. And I thought, how humiliating. If I were that lady, I would have taken my money and walked out of that grocery store, because it didn't happen to any of my white friends where they had that type of treatment when they put a $100 bill in front of a clerk. I know that may be a rare occasion, but I saw it with my own two eyes, and I felt bad for the woman, and I felt embarrassed that hasn't happened to some of my Caucasian friends. Big C, that make any sense to your thoughts?
Well, we're talking, you know, that's a social injustice right there.
Yeah.
That is profiling, you know, social profiling, because certain individuals can't have something legally.
Yeah.
Even though they work, they pay taxes, they cash their checks like
Yeah.
anybody else. And
Yeah.
you can't duplicate the $100 bill any longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, even in the counterfeiters, they've gone to the smaller denominations because they're easier
Yeah.
to replicate. But to be held to that accountability in a store,
In a grocery store.
where you've gone through several different scan techniques that you shouldn't be able to have,
Yeah.
that denomination of money.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing to the person. And she had a family to feed, I'm going to say, so she needed the groceries.
Yeah, she needed the
And
groceries. Yeah.
regardless of whichever store she went through, Charles, she
Yeah.
was going to go under the same scrutiny.
Yeah.
And it's unjust. It's unjust. But this is what we've gotten through our vitriol on the news.
Yeah.
It's going out that these are dirty people. These
Yeah.
are criminals.
Yeah.
They're rapists. They're murderers. They're drug dealers. So they can't have clean money.
Yeah.
Is what the president's saying. You know, you look at all these DACA kids who grew up in America.
Yeah.
This is the only country they have to go to. You
Yeah.
say, we're going to send you to Mexico. That's like making somebody homeless.
Yeah.
That's going in, taking somebody's house, and now you got to live on the street. That's basically what the president is saying.
Yeah, and I think it's a bad look.
Illegal activities with he and his family.
Yeah.
You want to tell these people that are law-abiding citizens, that are college students, that are in the police force.
Yeah.
They're in the military, Charlton.
Yeah.
They have professional careers. You know, getting college education degrees.
Yeah.
That you have to leave this country, the only country that you've known since you were 2 to 5 years old.
Yeah.
And go somewhere that you know nothing about, you know nothing of the culture.
Yeah.
And that's your country. No, that's anti-American, Charlton. That's social inequality, what you're trying to represent in this country, Charlton.
Yeah, and I was embarrassed that she had to go through that, and I understand that people have to do what they got to do, stores and clerks, etc. But I've never seen that happen to any of my Caucasian friends, and that's just a social experiment that I thought about because I saw it. It was painful just to watch that, but then seeing the rhetoric going on now, I understand it. So final question about that, Big C. The thing with Tom Brady, and I know as an athlete, he's been great for the NFL. He's been a phenomenal player for the New England area, for Boston, Massachusetts, for all of the history of sports in the Boston area. But to be put on a pedestal the way he is, and he does not even resemble the Muhammad Ali social consciousness, not even 1%. And that's always bothered me, to be around sycophants athletes. And I know people say, well, we don't want to talk about that. Let's just go make our money. At some point in time, how many young people, think about it, black and white, boys and girls, could be positively affected if a guy that's been race neutral, just let's go. That's the biggest thing he says about anything socially. But the NFL has put a lot of money into making sure he gets to the Super Bowl. And you can believe that. If you don't want to believe that, that's your choice. But they've made a lot of effort in making sure that marquee players at least reach the championship game. And you would think, if the NFL is taking a stance on social justice and trying to make sure that people do what Colin Kaepernick brought to light, why not take your prodigal child or your prodigal quarterback that you want to make the paragon of the league, and at least have him say something that would help add what they're doing with this social justice stance, Big C? I don't think that's too much to ask, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you cross the line as a league as far as controlling players, what they can and cannot say.
Yeah.
So I can understand the league's stance on that, is that we don't get in to what the players say in front of the microphone. We just ask them.
Okay, but let me just ask you this question: why did they do it when they had this anti-domestic violence thing? They had men wearing pink for breast cancer when the Ray Rice incident came out, and we also know Johnny Manziel had some issues. That gentleman from the New York Giants that beat his wife 20 times, they had issues. Josh Brown. We know the league took an active stance in wearing pink, and they had these football players crying on the TV commercial saying no more battering women. They did that. What's any different than that than saying no more discrimination? It's the same thing, Big C. Your thoughts?
But that's a unilateral stance that they took, Charlton. They took a stance as unity.
Yeah.
This was voted on by the Players Association as well as by the league.
Yeah.
As well as the league took a stance today, Charlton, saying that we're not going to demand publicly that the players stand for the national anthem. We will reject your money.
Yeah.
And we know that money was coming from the Republican Party.
Yeah.
To demand that the players stand for the national anthem. The league said we're not going to play a part of that.
Yeah.
The players are individuals. They are a union. There's no place in America, Charlton, okay?
Yep.
There's no union in America where they go in and all these people that are Trump backers or whatever,
Yeah.
let them go to work on Monday morning and say you have to stand for the national anthem. Demand that the national anthem is played
Yeah, in the workplace. Yeah. Yeah.
In Walmart, in Sears.
Yeah.
In every hospital in America.
Yeah.
Every workplace, every warehouse, Charlton.
Yeah.
Every car dealership. That when you go to work, you have to stand for the national anthem. And they said, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you have to force an athlete to be a chain follower? Okay?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, is that they don't have the rights. And they said, well, it's a privilege to play in the NFL. It's a privilege to have a damn job in America.
It sure is.
It's
Yeah.
a privilege. So don't sit there and say, well, it's a privilege to play professional sports. You're one of the blessed individuals in the world when you play professional sports. And I don't care what the sport is.
Yeah.
That is a very elite fraternity. That's like, okay, when was the last time you saw Congress standing for the national anthem, Charlton? Other than bickering and playing with everybody's lives.
Yeah.
When was the last time they stood for the national anthem? They don't do it, Charlton.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
to sit there and put those demands on just athletes,
Yeah.
that they have to stand for the national, I think it's been omitted from the schools, haven't it not, Charlton?
I know that a lot of kids, when I went to school a long time ago, Big C, before they even wore face masks, but I think we used to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I don't know if they do that anymore. But I think that's one thing about the president saying, I'm going to pledge allegiance to the flag and I'm going to stand for the national anthem. And then he behaves like a bigot and a sexist. So you can stand for the flag and grab women by the vagina, and that makes you American. It's about your deeds and not your words. That's what I think is more important. So a guy that says we got to stand for the flag has 17 sexual assault or sexual harassment lawsuits brought against them, and they tend to disappear. That's anti-American. It's behavior.
When you pay a porn star,
was she a porn star? Yeah.
That's a heck of a night,
Well, listen.
Like, I want the video. I want to see that $130,000 video.
Well, I want to bring that up because this is the same president that said that he called all the African-American players who were asking for social reform and some type of social justice, and not that they could all be Ali, but they were asking, what can the league do to help ensure that our kids, the ones that don't have numbers and jerseys and uniforms on, and they're not on TV, what can we do to make life better for the young African-American boy and girl that we know has been marginalized by the criminal justice and prison industrial complex? We all know that. Unless you're very, very dumb, you know that. That same man, that same president that bragged on TV about grabbing women by the vagina, you can get away with it when you're rich, you can do what you want to do. That same man now has, I guess, some allegations with a woman in the pornographic business industry. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You do what you want to do.
But he was married, Charles.
Well, that
he was married to the first lady.
Okay.
If she didn't mind, he didn't care.
Well, well, you know what? Sometimes, and I've just been around the block enough to know that some wives don't care what you do as long as the money comes home. That's just a fact, and we know that's part of Donald's profile. The people he's married, it's because of the money. That's why he got them in the first place.
Well, think about the former mayor of New York.
Yeah.
You know, who was paying...
was it Eliot Spitzer? Was it Eliot Spitzer? A congressman? Yeah.
And you see Spitzer, and then you look at the senator that was there a couple of years ago, Weiner.
Yeah.
You know, who lost his job over these things, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you look at the two Democrats that have been, retired, Conyers
Yeah.
and Franklin.
Yeah.
For these allegations. And they talked about, spending money. And I guess if the president not taking it out of his own pocket, he has people paying for it. It's not like he did.
Yeah.
Because his attorney was under retainer.
Yeah.
Paid the money.
Yeah.
So it came out of his retainer fund to the attorney. Didn't come out of his
no,
pocket.
that came out of taxpayer money. His attorney doesn't got no credit card. Trump doesn't pay people. That came out of the United States taxpayers' credit card. See, that's where that came from. That's why they had to shut down the government. He had to find out how we're going to get money to pay these people. But either way, I just think that I'm proud of the NFL. I got to make that statement. It's a 70% African-American league. If you're a black man in this country, if you don't stand up for your own kids, then just trade them in and let somebody else be the man of that family. We got to find a way to, we're not going to be here forever. But there are things that we can do while we're able to make life better for the next generation. The same way Dr. King gave his body, mind, and soul and his life to make sure that all people could have equality. That's not too much to ask. And I'm so proud, at least, I know that the NFL is not perfect, and I know the NBA is not, Major League Baseball is not. But as black men, this is not Jim Crow anymore. You can actually say what can keep our kids safe, and not everybody has to like it, because some people benefit when kids are locked up. They get the prison, they're privatized prisons. Okay, don't think everybody wants kids to get out. But I'm just proud of a league that's owned by all white men, even though they wouldn't hire a black guy for bringing these issues forward. At least they're trying to atone for that. Maybe not 100%, but they're making an effort to do what Ali even talked about a half a century ago. Big C, that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it does. The league has grown in leaps and bounds. You think about the early days of the NFL when minorities were not even allowed to participate.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
And there's been a slow progression of the number of minorities who now dominate the league.
Yeah.
There are still some positions that are held over and sanctimonious to a degree.
Yeah.
But minorities that have moved into those positions also, Charlton.
Yeah.
We've seen minorities elevate into the head coaching positions
Yeah.
this week, Charlton.
Yeah.
Just like in the NBA, even in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
We've seen that growth where, 50, 60 years ago, we had none of that. And so America's a slow growth country.
Yeah.
The sports industry has escalated beyond other industries in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
You talk about being head coaches and managers
Yep.
and general managers. That's the corporate world.
Yeah.
That has allowed African Americans to move into it, Charlton. It's not noted in the media as much because they don't want to say, well, these people have the paralysis to be good
Yep.
in that industry and they're better than some of their brethren.
Yeah.
But we don't get that often enough.
Yep.
But, we always hear about just the player, but we don't hear about the executive when
Yeah.
he's doing well.
Big C, that's a
the
very
thing that
good
needs
point.
to change
That's
in the sports world.
That's a very good point. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro athlete, a collegiate player, a high school player, even your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So Big C, we know that I'm always so grateful I'm grateful what I learned from you. I was talking to someone about you today about some former athletes that I was talking to, and just things that we can do as a people. At one time, I look at what the great Ed DeBartolo Jr. did as a owner of the 49ers. There was a player, I can't remember his name, but he became somewhat paralyzed by the arm, and it happened he was playing a game, and he got hit just the wrong way. He became paralyzed in his arm. I think he still has most bodily functions. DeBartolo bought an annuity for that man, and he'll have money for the rest of his life. Now, why can't that be an example that everybody can do? I know we all don't have Eddie DeBartolo's money, but at least that's something that one man did, and a lot of players that play for him, they love the fact that he took care of his players. Was he a perfect man? No. But there are no perfect people. But he never calls them SOBs like our first president to do that has done. But he did take care of a player that had a need. I want to bring up this point here. We talk about teams, and we're coming up on the Super Bowl. But Big C, there's so much money that goes into the new stadiums, and I look at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota, home of Super Bowl 52. And how owners can put money in the stadiums, and they'll ask the taxpayers to do it also. U.S. Bank Stadium, would you believe they've had 16 regular season NFL games, and that's great in 2 years. That's what you get for $1.2 billion. But they've hosted over 140 college baseball games. They use that stadium year-round, just like every other major municipality. When taxpayer money goes into it, it's not just for those 8 games a year for a football game, Big C. Can you say why it's important for not only the ownership, but even taxpayers to get involved in rebuilding these organizations and these franchises, because it creates jobs and it creates opportunities, and oftentimes it comes in parts of town where people are forgotten. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think of any major stadium that's built in America, Charlton, there's millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money that goes into these stadiums, Charlton. They're not funded by the owners.
Exactly.
The owners, say that they're at Stadium Charlton, they're charging personal seat licenses
yeah.
for a fan to come sit in there, and then he's selling the tickets on top of that. But they're funded by the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And so it benefits the community in every way when the taxpayers do go out and say, okay, we're going to fund this stadium and get it here. I mean, you think about the one that just opened up in Atlanta this year.
Gorgeous.
I think the taxpayers footed about 70% of that bill for that Stadium Charlton. But you spoke about something that people don't pay attention to. It's the multi-use of one of these venues.
Yeah.
That at times, Charlton, they use in excess of 200 days out of the year.
Yeah.
And you think about it, we only look at football because we think of the Vikings.
Yep.
But this stadium is used for everything: monster truck events, conventions, baseball, track and field, gymnastics, anything that you could think about, high school events, Charlton.
Yeah.
There is so much that goes on in these venues.
Creates jobs.
It brings revenue to the local market, Charlton. You have security jobs that are taking place. You have maintenance jobs that are taking place. So they fund the local community. And you talk a lot about the Raiders leaving the Oakland Bay Area there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that stadium, of how much it has supported that local community, Charlton, for since the 60s?
Since the 60s, yeah.
That stadium, mid-60s?
Yeah.
That you had the Raiders. You had the A's. You also at one point had a soccer team out there, I believe, at one point.
Yeah.
But, you think about all the other events that go on in the Charlton, the college games that have been played, the high school championship games that have been played, the monster truck, the motocross events, Charlton, that have taken place, circuses that they hold in some of these venues, Charlton.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we think about support of a community, that's what sports does, Charlton.
Yeah.
And not just the game of sports, but the venue of a sport, Charlton. And you have that multi-purpose facility there because you also have the Warriors arena right next door.
Yeah.
So you had good and bad weather events that you could always host in one parking lot.
Yeah.
That went on there. When cities lose something, Charlton, they're no longer able to support masses that were supported by these venues. You think about it. These venues support well over 1,000 individuals, Charlton, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 individuals.
Yeah.
That families rely on the income from these arenas.
Yeah.
And so that's something that when you look at Oakland heading to Vegas now,
that's a shame.
These are families that are no longer going to be able to pay mortgages.
Yeah, unemployed.
There's not going to be jobs to replace those jobs that they lose.
Yeah. And that's the thing when I heard about Gruden, And he gave that, and again, he's not a perfect man, and we all have flaws. But when he says to the people, number one, you're all going to be out of a job in 2 years unless you're chosen to come to Las Vegas. But I'm going to give you the best 2 years of your life. What a dumb thing to say to people who are about to become unemployed, who have mortgages, who send their kids to college, who do so many things because they're part of that organization and what the Raiders are brought to Oakland. But I understand when someone gives you $2 billion, then you're probably going to take up and relocate, Big C. So that's just part of it. I do want to bring up your thoughts on some things that are going on, too, in the world of the NBA. And I look at all the trade talks, and different players are making moves to different teams, and that's going to be something that ownerships decide if they're going to do that. I look at LeBron James. And now people hate LeBron James and they love LeBron James. That's just part of being the king. But he is closing in on 30,000 points. And if he hits that 30,000 point mark for the NBA in scoring, he's going to join some of the great Hall of Famers, Big C. You have Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan. You have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who scored more than anybody, Karl Malone, and you have Nowitzki also down there in Dallas. What does it mean? How would you compare what LeBron James is doing compared to, say, someone like the great Wilt Chamberlain or someone like the great, Jabbar or Jordan? Does he have to wait until he retires before he can be put on the same echelon as some of those great players? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's one of those iconic figures just like the ones that you spoke of.
Yeah.
He resonates NBA. LeBron goes as the NBA goes.
Yeah.
He is the pulse of the league. Every time you hear something said about the NBA, you can't get 3 words in without having LeBron's name come up in the conversation.
Yeah.
And so he is that marquee individual that the league doesn't know how to do without.
No.
It's a league full of superstars.
Yeah.
But there's always a star amongst the superstars, and that's been LeBron James, the way he's carried himself throughout his professional career. There were some people that were butthurt behind him going to Miami.
Yeah.
But he was a man who made a professional and personal decision to do that.
Yeah.
Just like any free agent can. You're not owned by the market. You're not owned by a team owner, Charlton, only while you're under contract.
Yeah.
But when you got rid of your shackles and said, now I'm my own free man, I can take my own destiny where I go.
Yeah.
He chose to go to Miami. It's just like now everybody's talking about, well, he's not going to be in Cleveland. He's going here and he's going there.
Yeah.
Everybody's speculating. It's tabloidism right now when it comes to LeBron.
Yeah.
But he garnishes that much attention, Charlton.
Yeah.
That regardless of what goes on, whether the team's on a losing streak, whether the team is hot, it's always LeBron. And so right now, they're talking about LeBron is also the head coach.
Yeah.
And all that. LeBron's a teammate.
Yeah.
Is what he is. He's a vocal individual, but he garnishes so much attention is that the media doesn't want to ever say anything to make him mad.
Yeah.
Because they cherish those interviews and those opportunities to get to talk with each other.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't want to burn any bridges when it comes to that. So they will say things negative about everybody else, whether it's a head coach, whether it's a teammate, but they won't speak negative of LeBron. And to reach and gain the acclaim that he has in his storied career thus far, Charlton, he's been to the mountaintop. He's won the championships. He's delivered 2 different franchises, not one, 2. And you think about his numbers continue to go.
Yeah.
And whatever troubles that the Cleveland Cavaliers have, Charlton, every professional team goes through that.
They all go through that. I want to get your thoughts on something. When we talk about how great LeBron is, we know he's going to reach the 30,000 point plateau. We know he's been to the finals. I believe it's going to be 8 years if he gets there again this year. We know that he's just a guy that makes everything happen. When you think about guys like Chamberlain, what jumps into your mind? You saw so many games that Wilt played back in the day. What jumps into your mind about Chamberlain? Right now, everyone thinks LeBron is King James. He can dunk a basketball. He plays good defense. He's always going to be an all-pro, a first ballot Hall of Famer. But that's now. That's because we see so much on TV. What would they be saying if they saw Wilt Chamberlain play if he was in LeBron's shoes, the late Wilt Chamberlain, if he was in LeBron's shoes today, knowing what he did on the court, Big C, what would they be saying about him, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not many players have galvanized the game like Wilt Chamberlain did. He changed the structure of the game. And when you think about that, to have an African-American change the structure of a professional sport, Charlton, we've seen that a couple times.
Yeah.
Bob Gibson lowered the mound in baseball. They took it down 6 inches because of Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
Because this man was such a dominant pitcher, had under a 2 ERA and wins the World Series. they say he has an unfair advantage. Because
Yeah.
he's an African American, so he
Yeah.
has an unfair advantage.
Too dominant.
In the league to start with.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain altered the course of the NBA.
Yeah.
We see a 12-foot lane now. When Wilt Chamberlain entered the NBA, that was only 6 feet across.
Yeah.
Wilt's wingspan was larger than the key that you stood around for rebounds.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody went to the free throw line, Wilt was almost guaranteed the rebound problem.
Yeah.
You think about it.
Yeah.
This was a guy who averages over 20 rebounds in a season on a couple of occasions.
Wow.
And that's how much he altered the game.
Yeah.
You know, he's the only player in the league to score over 50 points a game multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So when you think about the individual dominance, and granted, it's nice to see people on television,
Yep.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we get too much of it nowadays.
Yeah.
It's oversaturated.
Yeah.
But to be able to see Wilt in his prime, to see the dominance of an individual, regardless of what you did, you had to structure your entire defense
Yeah.
for this one person. He didn't take outside shots, Charlton. He didn't have a three-point arsenal.
No.
You know, this is a guy that can score 100 points without having a three-point shot.
That's incredible. Yeah.
This is a guy that can average 54 points a game for an entire season without having a three-point shot. So when we think about the dominance of players,
Yeah.
you know, we always have to look back to a Bill Russell and a Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Guys who could average over 20 rebounds a season, Charlton, and just dominate. And that's what you have. You had, but you don't have now. It's great to be a marquee individual, and,
Yeah.
and we really appreciate LeBron
Yeah.
for the entertainment spectacle that he has brought to America and all basketball fans around the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're remiss when you don't back and you don't mention the guys back in the day, their greatness. As far back as generation goes now is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It's almost like basketball didn't exist pre-Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one can remember that Bill Russell had 11 consecutive, make that 13 consecutive championships, Charlton. 13 consecutive Bill Russell had.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an ungodly number. But Bill doesn't walk around. He doesn't want people to care about the record that he has.
Yeah.
He enjoyed playing the game. That's what a true spokesperson is. And even Michael Jordan doesn't walk around saying, I won 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the media fans that do that.
That do that then. So that with that being said, because you go back in history like nobody else can. When I bring up what would the media say about Wilt Chamberlain today, if he were in LeBron James' shoes, we know Jordan has been made famous because he had a lot of success at North Carolina under the great Dean Smith, and he played some Final Four games and actually had a winning jump shot in one of those games in the Final Four. That propelled him on to the NBA. He didn't have success at first because they had to go up against Boston and Larry Bird and McHale and Ainge and them good old boys from the East. And then after that, they had to deal with the bad boys from Detroit, whether it was Isaiah Thomas, Rick Mahorn, Dennis Rodman. Those guys would actually punch him. I mean, they'd hit him. They would, when you got fouled by those good old boys, you were really grabbed and punched Big C on the ground. So we know Jordan had to break through that. And then he became even more famous because of the commercials. And he did that commercial with Spike Lee, and he was jumping, and he could hang on a rim like nobody else could. And they said, "Is it the shoes? It's got to be the shoes." And then you have Nike coming in, that conglomerate that sold a lot of shoes. So the Jordan brand went over really big time because every kid could buy a pair of. Well, they could not. Every kid could afford them, but kids found a way to get a pair of Jordan shoes, and that's what made Jordan's image larger than life because he was marketed around the world. Could you imagine if the league had done the same thing to someone like a Chamberlain, how they could actually put the numbers behind it? I'm not saying that Michael Jordan was great. We know that, but he never scored 100 points.
Wilt played in segregation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
America was segregated. African Americans would not relish during Wilt's heyday.
Yeah.
When Wilt scored 100 points, that was back page news.
Yeah.
Because who he was. Now, you think about Michael Jordan, I think his best game ever was like 63 against Boston.
Yeah.
And that was almost like the greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
Wilt scored in the 60s on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
He holds the record for games in the 60s.
Yeah.
But he's not thought about because the young sports broadcaster today, Charlton, can't visualize that. He can't imagine that somebody was better than Michael Jordan. And like we said about Wilt, he took 2-point shots, Charlton.
Yeah.
And averaged over 50 points a game.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan's best season didn't get within 20 points of Wilt's best season.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
A game, Charlton.
Yeah.
So if Wilt was in his heyday today, playing under the media spotlight that we have, there would not be enough expletives to explain
Yeah.
what Wilt does.
Yeah.
You would run out of greatness every night. It's like, how can we explain it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think about people went crazy over Kobe.
Yeah.
The way he played. Karl Malone, with the amount of points that he scored.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan with his 6 championships. But Wilt goes out and have 5, 6 consecutive games of over 50 points.
That's incredible.
Over 20 rebounds.
Yeah.
How do you explain that on a sports broadcast, Charles?
Yeah,
How do you explain the greatness of that individual?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We know every player goes about generation and how, what player is going to be the best of what generation. And even when you look at different teams, if you look at the Yankees and how dominant the Yankees have been as a Major League Baseball franchise, and now you're looking at the New England Patriots, at one time Boston Patriots, how successful they've been as an NFL franchise. When you look at the NBA, you look at the Boston Celtics, you look at the LA Lakers, and all of their championships, no matter what Chicago's done and Cleveland and Golden State, now it's still Boston and LA when you look at some of the best franchises in the NBA. But when it comes to players, Big C, unlike what we're seeing LeBron trying to get to 30,000 points, just having you bring up what Wilt Chamberlain did, if he were on a major network today and all the accomplishments that he had back then, it would make a lot of guys pale in comparison to how great and how dominant he was, Big C. Would you agree with that? Your thoughts?
Well, we're talking, like I said, these young guys don't understand the greatness of an individual of past time.
Yeah.
It's like sitting up trying to explain what Jackie Robinson did for baseball.
Yeah.
To say, well, you look at the players nowadays, and when you look at the broadcasters, they don't understand what baseball is.
Yeah.
And I spoke about Gibson, the pitcher for the Cardinals. They rave about a pitcher now, Charlton, Kershaw.
Right.
Then he's the best pitcher maybe in the history of baseball.
Right.
Go back and look at Gibson. Bob Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals. If you ever want to think that Clayton Kershaw is the best pitcher in baseball, that his $240 million contract
yeah.
deserved,
and no World Series.
Bob Gibson would be at $300 million. Okay?
Yeah.
He'd be at $300 million.
Yeah.
And he everyone talks about Nolan Ryan being a strikeout king.
Yeah.
You couldn't hit Bob Gibson if your ERA for the season is 1.64.
Yeah.
1.64. Now, we're not talking about for an inning. We're talking about over 9 innings.
Over 9.
He pitched complete games. He didn't go out there and get to 6 and bring in 3 relievers.
Right.
To finish up the game.
Right.
He pitched 9 innings.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about Wilt, when he played, Wilt played the 48 minutes a game.
Yeah.
He didn't go out there and play 30. He played 48.
Yeah.
He ran up and down the floor all night long.
That's incredible news, because I know a lot of people don't know that. And just the fact, and I want to see LeBron get to 30. And he's going to get to 30, but he's not dealing with the same type of social pressures that Wilt Chamberlain dealt with. He's not dealing with the fact that you can be more physical when Wilt played back in the day. Now you look at guys, they want a foul call because someone looks at them, Big C, not because someone knocked them to the ground. And the fact that Wilt did this when he did not have these major shoe contracts that were paying him, 7 figures, Big C, to wear their tennis shoes, and he didn't have every sports channel saying, let's show his 39 points that he scored in one game, 50 different times a night, and it seemed like it's more than 39 points. The fact that you just put up some of the numbers that you did on the great Wilt Chamberlain, that shows how great he was and how dominant he was. And to me, for people to not be able to see that, I think we're missing more in the world of sports because we did not have access to that. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, talking to anybody can be swayed through media's, savvy.
Yeah.
You can go out there and tell someone a story and not tell the whole story.
Yeah.
The same reason that they don't have history lessons now in high schools, because you cannot speak the truth any longer.
Yeah.
Because the internet exists.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we do all the time is tell people to Google.
Google it.
You're an aficionado like that.
He has a blue G on the phone.
The network can't tell anybody to Google.
No.
They'll say, this is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's never been done better than this.
Yeah.
But, they're omitting the story, Charlton.
Yeah.
You have to be honest in sports just like you do in politics.
Yeah.
Be honest about the greatness that existed before that allowed the game to escalate to where it is now.
Yeah.
That we haven't seen the best today. The best has already been here.
Yeah.
We're only seeing residue of what greatness was, Charlton.
Big C, that's a very good point. Speaking of greatness, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, as we spoke about it, we're looking forward to LeBron joining that elite group of 30,000-point scorers, Charlton.
Yes.
That he will get tonight. I think he's about 7 points shy of that, which he should eclipse in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But LeBron's greatness, has come with great teammates over time. He scored 30. But when you look at the teammates that he's been with along the way to get to that plateau, Charlton,
Yeah.
that's what team sports is all about. We'll always celebrate the greatness of one individual,
Yeah.
but it's a team that gets that individual to that plateau, Charlton.
Big C, you say it like none other. I really love the way you take us back in history because it makes me think back to when I was a little kid. I remember seeing some of those things, and you can always follow it every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, where you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911 because no woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.